Hey guys, this is Issues with Toddy One Skip. I am Toddy One Skip. Welcome back to my channel and thank you. Thank you guys. Been a lot going on these past couple days. uh, this video, I actually lost my temper in this video, not at Sarah, but at Fancy. And when I rewatched the video, I said, I got to take this out because my wording invited something that I don't want to invite. I think it's going to happen, but I don't want to invite it because if I invite it to happen, I asked for it. So I had to restrain and take my wording out. Anyway, let me say this about Pink Hat Sarah. Kidnapper Sarah. I enjoyed talking to her. I thought she was really articulate. She was everything Fancy made her not be. That's terrible. That's terrible. She was able to stay focused. She spoke well. She seemed totally candid and honest with me. And I enjoyed talking to her. And I was flabbergasted, honestly, to realize how much of the Gypsy Rose case this woman actually knew and what her thoughts were about what happened that night and where her passion is. Guys, please forget about everything that Fancy said, that April John said about Sarah, and please listen to her with new ears. Give her a chance with new ears. Don't let what anybody said about her taint that. Just listen. Just listen and you decide. And really, just listen because there's nothing to look at. All right, guys. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
All right.
How you doing? I thought that was a really good interview with Amber and Alora.
Well, I hope so because I'm so sick and tired of being called a liar. You know, I have only done one other interview and it went terribly. It was awful. I got completely ambushed by Fancy and all her fans in the comment section, and I shouldn't have even looked at the comment section. I should have just ignored it. But her ex-partner, Brandy Jolly, was hosting it, and I didn't feel comfortable with her, and I later found out that she hated me. So I didn't have any support for her, and, you know, Kendall Grant was the one that had talked me into doing it, and I trusted her, and she just totally stabbed me in the back. They got angry because I didn't produce all of these receipts about the stupid laptop situation. And I've tried to explain to everyone, like, you don't understand. I mean, I'm too sick to go through 30,000 messages over all different platforms. And honestly, like, it gets me so upset that I'll start having a pancreatitis attack, you know? And so they called me a liar because I didn't get them the receipts they wanted that day.
So I just want to let you know, hang on one second, because I get it, man. I do, I get it. I just want to let you know that I am recording this on my computer, and I'm going to put this up, so I just want you to know that, you know, I mean, if you say something by accident and you catch it, you know, we're not live, but, I mean, if you say something and you say, hey, Toddy, you know what, I don't like that I said that, let's take that out, I will.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
So I just want you to be aware
Can I ask you what is the significance with this Karen woman? What is that about?
Okay, so there was no significance. Here's what it is that I know. Okay, so this woman,
did she attack you or like write a nasty message?
Well, I don't get on Reddit or the other thing. I don't, you know. But what happened was was asked to be, okay, there was a video, let me just start with this. There was a video that I caught, and I don't think it was live when I caught it. I don't know. Somebody sent it to me. I don't know. I saw a video, let's put it like that. I saw a video where this woman was being attacked online, and her name was Jessica, and she had like an English accent, Australian accent, and she was talking to
Oh,
Bree.
yeah, I saw that
Okay.
video.
Well, I was enraged the way that they treated this woman, so I made a response video and was like, how can you, like, what do you mean don't talk about like this? I was in her defense. Well, and I said, anybody that knows this woman, I'd like to speak with her because from my understanding, she was part of MPG Cornerstone, and I wanted to know who they were, Sarah. I wanted to know. And I said to myself, this was
Yeah.
the first woman, and I liked the way she spoke, and I thought she was valid in her points. I might not have agreed with everything, but I thought, well, that's okay because at least she can hold herself well, and she did have and the way that they just like treated her, I just felt like she had a
Yeah, I
story
saw
to tell.
that.
Right. So I put up this
Yeah.
video and I'm like coming to her defense, which I would have done anyway because I don't care who she was. It was wrong. And and I start saying, listen, guys, if you know this woman, I'd like to meet her. So I get this email and it says, um, hey, we want you to be the face of the NPG movement. And we know, and I let that go. I didn't respond to that. And then I get a second email from the same person, and it says, Jessica is part of our group. The Jessica that you were talking about is part of our group. So I respond to that email, right? Because I mean, I'm asking for
Yeah.
information about this woman. So, um, so I respond to that email, and so just so you know, I think that Amber and Delore are going to put out that video tonight. I kind of talked them into putting it out. I think it needs to go out. I think I think it needs to go out because in ruining Fancy's credibility, your credibility rises, Sarah. That's obvious, right?
Well, I would hope so because I've been just completely dragged through the mud on social media and now in the legal system.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that you can honestly get so much on her that
Mm.
it would have to be in your favor. Anyway, so just let me say that so I reach out to this group and we all do like this Zoom, and half of them are like you, they don't want to show their face, and some of them anyway, I don't care. So um they tell me about this clemency thing. So as soon as I get off, I make up a video, and I put about the clemency. But there were things about it that were kind of weird as far as like, I don't know. But so I reached out to the lawyer. I reached out to Tyler Coyle, who is Nick's public defender, and because Nina reached out to me. Nina said, "Hey, Toddy, I'm all about this with you. However, I'm not comfortable enough to tell my subscribers. Is there any way that you could validate it? Can you?" And she said, "We don't even know who MPG is." And I said, "You know what, Nina, you're 1,000% right." So that's when I called up Tyler. That's when I called up the lawyer.
Who's behind the Free Nick movement?
See, that's the thing. There's two of them apparently. I'm behind mine,
Yeah.
and NPG is behind hers, behind his. Now, here's the thing. You have just proven to me, and so has somebody else, that Fancy has something to do with the affiliation of the NPG Cornerstone through Sarah. That not Sarah, through Karen,
Karen.
Karan. Okay, so Karen, here's what happened. So Karen gets on my, so I'm doing the letters. I don't know. I've never met Karen. I don't think she was part of that thing, but I don't know half these people's names, so I don't care. But anyway, um, she gets on my in my comments, and she's everywhere in my comments about that's not how you do the letter, and she's like, and I said to myself, oh, this isn't going to work because this woman's trying to distract, and I need these people to go ahead with the letter. If they're going to go ahead with the letter, I don't need this woman giving them wrong information. And now, meantime, people are saying, you know, Karen's Gypsy Rose. You know, Karen's. I don't know. I don't know Karen's Gypsy Rose. I don't know that. You know. And you gotta listen. I'm not that. I won't believe it's Gypsy Rose until she pulls the fucking mask off. To be honest with you, you know what I'm saying? I mean, that's just how I
Yeah.
am. You know. So, unless I got a gut feeling, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to go with something
Yeah.
else. So I don't have a gut
Well,
feeling that that's Gypsy Rose, Karen, but I do feel like they're working for Gypsy Rose. You know, because if they're not working for Nick, they're working for Gypsy. It's just the way it works that way. It's just the way that one works. It's not like one or the it's one or the other. In this situation, you don't have to act on anything, but it's
mhm.
one or the other. You know what I mean? Like, so she writes in
I
my
had some people like asking me, they said, we're very confused because, Fancy's been pushing this whole free Nick and helping him get his last chance of an appeal at the Supreme Court. But now we're asked to be writing letters for clemency, and clemency is not the same
yeah. So let me
as
tell you
a
that he doesn't
appeal.
have. This is the thing. I called the lawyer, and it's a clemency
Uh-huh.
letter. It's clemency. And see, you see, MPG Cornerstone, they're doing just enough to confuse people. They're giving
It
out
is
just enough,
confusing.
but that's what their point. They're giving out just enough information to say we did, but it's not because the template that they put out is something that would never work. It wouldn't help his clemency. They could write the letter and people could say, oh, well, I wrote the letter. Well, yeah, NPG told me to do it and I did it. But those letters would not get passed on to the governor, according to the
But
lawyer. According
but
to.
you
Go
but
ahead.
you do agree that, legally clemency and a appeal at the Supreme Court are completely different
They
things.
are. So that's why. And so listen, I'm gonna put this up. So let's just do it. Let's just do it. So here we go. I'm gonna look it up. We're gonna look up clemency because I did. I knew what it was, but I wanted to make sure because of what I'm doing. Clemency. Wait a minute. Here we go. Um,
Because somebody was like, why has Fancy been talking about how he's got, one appeal left at the Supreme Court level, but now we're asked to do clemency letters. And I said, they're not the same things. And they said, well, then why did Fancy say that? And I said, because she doesn't know what she's talking
yeah.
about.
So from my understanding, he doesn't have another appeal. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't have another appeal. So here is
I
clemency.
told him just to do what you said. I said, just do what she said. She's talked to the lawyer herself.
I've spoke to the
Fancy
guy
has
three
not.
times. Like I spoke to this guy 3 times. Like I'm not like you can call him up, ask him how many times has that one person called you up because I gave him my real name. You know what I'm saying? I told
Right.
him that I
And so
had a
it's like,
channel, but let me read. So clemency is an act of leniency. Okay, so clemency is defined as an act of leniency or disposition to be merciful. But as a broad legal term, the word includes pardon, com- um, or reprieve, or remission of fines or forfeits. So what it does is it will lessen his sentence, and it is based basically on something that wasn't shown. You could appeal for a lot of reasons for clemency, but one of the reasons, and this is what he wants, I guess the lawyer, because he said it should read, and I have this. Wait a minute, because this is right here in front of me. This is exactly from the lawyer. I wrote it down. It says, "Dear," he wants you to write, "Dear Governor," without the name of the governor because the governor changes. I think you mentioned something like that, and I agreed with you. Or maybe it was
Yes.
somebody, I spoke to a few people. Anyway, dear Governor, I am writing in support of Nicholas Godejohn's application for clemency. And then in the next two sentences, next couple paragraphs, explain why. And when you mention his co defendant, you should mention her as his co defendant. Do not bash her. Make it about the fact that maybe his autism wasn't taken into consideration. Things have come out now that show that Gypsy actually talked this guy into it, or his co-defendant. Things have come out now that his co-defendant appears to have talked him into this for over 2 years. Clearly, he didn't want to do it because he's of diminished mental capacity. You know what I'm saying? You put reasons behind it. Try to take the emotion out of it and put like reasons behind it. And that's
right,
what
but
the lawyer
it's
explained.
just and I've told everybody, do whatever Toddy says, because in with my legal knowledge, clemency to me has always been a form of a pardon.
Right.
And that is completely different than a Supreme Court appeal.
Yeah, I don't know. Here's the thing. Again, they have done enough to confuse everybody. They've done enough to confuse everybody. And I did go to the police, to the state police today. And I had to go back and get my computer. And then they took my computer, and then they gave my computer back to me. And I just looked at them, and they just said, yeah, basically, I don't know if they put something in here. I don't know. And even if I did, I wouldn't say anything, honestly, because I'm not going to show everybody my cards. But I went ahead and I did this for a couple reasons. And one of the reasons is, don't stand in the way of something that somebody's trying to do to help somebody to be fair. All I'm trying to do is be fair to this kid that nobody seemed to be fair to him before. It wasn't taken into consideration, and this is personal to me. And I said that because of my dad and the way that my dad spent the last 15 years of his life trying to protect another autistic boy. So, Nick has been used and abused, and it's my 1,000% firm belief that it continues on to this day. Nick says that MPG Cornerstone is his group, but Nick has said that Fancy, I've seen things from Nick that says Fancy's despicable and all of this shit about Fancy. I mean,
he hates her.
I know. So, but does Nick know that the same person that is NPG Cornerstone is the same person that is talking to Fancy? Like, they're the same. Like, she's supporting Fancy, who is responsible for Dawn, who went into there. Now, NPG Cornerstone knows that Fancy did this, and yet they're said, I got screenshots now that they're supporting NPG Cornerstone, or the people in NPG Cornerstone are supporting Fancy. So tell me that doesn't, who's behind MPG Cornerstone, and do they really have Nick's interest at heart when all this stuff comes out? Really? No, I don't think so. Not only is Fancy fucking totally discredited now with everything, but NPG Cornerstone goes right out with it. So the second reason why I went ahead and filed charges against this was because I want to know who NPG Cornerstone is. Now I want to know. And I don't care who it is. You're going to get exposed. And I don't care who it is.
What can the police do about it?
So, well, they have to actually get the proof together, which is
Like
what they're
tracked
gonna do.
IPs and all that stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't even get into it if they told me, to be honest, Sarah, because this is going out online. I'm not gonna. I wouldn't do
Oh,
that.
okay. I just didn't even know. I was like, in this day and time, it's like sometimes everyone's hands are just tied because it's so confusing. I mean, you could be dealing with someone in a different country for all we know.
Oh, some of them are. I mean, some of those people are in Australia. But here's the thing:
Mhm.
doxing's illegal, and they doxed my ass. And
Oh wow.
that's federal because it's state to state. That's not, I mean, they're not in my state. We already know that. That we know. That we
Mhm.
know. Okay?
Yeah.
So it's not in my state, so that becomes federal. Well, if it's international, well, good luck. I mean, well, they shouldn't have done it. How
Yeah.
about that? How about they shouldn't have done it and I don't care? How about that? And the
Yeah.
reason why I can't even find sympathy with them is because of what they've done to Nick. What they've done to Nick. So they don't get any sympathy from me. I don't give a shit who they are. They get no sympathy from me. They get no grace. Simply alone because of what they've done to Nick and supported a person that did that shit to Nick. Knowing that she did it. She even admitted it. I put out a video talking about her infiltration that she says she did. Everybody's put out a video about that. Why would a group that supports Nick support that?
Right. Like that Karen letter, like I said, I was just getting ready to get on, and this really sweet girl that's from Canada, she was like, "Hey, get in the box. We want to ask you a question." So they asked me a question, and then they said, and they had that letter up, and they were really upset because they said, and I said, "What's going on? Like what are we upset about?" They said, "This person is in MPG Cornerstone and read the letter." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." And they said, "Please take a screenshot right now and send it to Toddy because you're going to be talking to her later because this woman has attacked her." And I was like, that is insane that she would be a member of MPG Cornerstone and posting something like that about Dee Dee and Fancy.
Right? Tell me about it.
And like I said, I've been very shocked. I'll have to go back through all my old messages, but I was getting messages on a frequent basis from Facebook, from the MPG Cornerstone group on Facebook, encouraging me to leave Fancy over and over and over. And then after we split, I've not heard a word.
Well, somebody else sent me something else which makes MPG Cornerstone look really bad. Let me share this. I mean, I'm going to put it up on the video, but this just made me laugh because, MPG Cornerstone. So somebody sent me this, and it's from 3 months ago, and it is from, I don't know, I guess it's from a person named Megsy JMK. I know that name in my own community here, but she put this up, and this is on NPG Cornerstone's website. I mean, on their YouTube channel, in their comments, and it says, "If you can let Nick know somehow, please tell him I subscribe to this channel because YouTube creator Toddy One Skip recommended for all her subscribers, myself included, almost 15,000 of us, to join your channel in support of Nick. Justice for Nick. And thank you for fucking doxing me because I didn't do anything to them." I'm not talking to you, Sarah. I'm looking in my own camera saying, so don't tell me what I did. My actions are right here. I know what I did. I know who I am. And you guys are poison. And
So someone put out a post doxing you and telling people not to listen to you?
No, they okay, so I know where they got my information from Nick because I wrote to Nick. And Nick knows my name. So and I said right away when I had spoken to Nick, and I told my channel, and the reason why I spoke to Nick was because of that. was because I wanted to know if he knew who MPG Cornerstone was. Do you know them? Do they work for you? And he said, yes, they do. Those are his people, and I shouldn't second guess them. That's what he said.
Okay.
And I
Yeah.
got that, and I shared that. And that's where that 3-month-old email came, that 3-month-old thing that I just read you. That's when
Wow.
I told people to subscribe to that channel. That was Nick's people. So I know what I did. I did the right thing. I ended up doing the wrong thing, apparently, because they're fucked up people. I did the right thing based on my heart. My
Right,
head's
you
come
were
into play now,
given-
took over the heart, and MPG Cornerstone should disperse or let the police disperse you. Please stay, because I really want this information. Please stay
Yeah.
right where you're at.
So
What I did
guess-
find out, wait, what I did find out, and this is from somebody else. Yep, let me read this now, because this is going out there, Sarah, and I still want to talk about clearing your name, because see, again, bringing Fancy, holding her up for her credibility, and her not meeting that credibility only lifts your credibility up. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah.
So
So I guess I still didn't get my question answered. Like, do you know, like, what was the letter that doxed you? Was it a post on MPG? Was it a letter? I mean,
okay,
what was
so what it was I saw it a long time ago. I want to say it was on their Facebook page or on their TikTok. I think it was on their TikTok, and I very rarely get there, but and anyway, there was a lot of noise going on. I went into their TikTok to see something, and I saw it myself, and it just said they were asking somebody that I guess is a subscriber to my channel. I don't know who it is. They asked that person something about why did they comment on so this subscriber, I guess, commented on my YouTube channel and was like part of NPG. And I guess that was a problem for NPG, because they said, why are you commenting on, they mentioned my name, my real name, and then they write AKA Toddy One Skip. I saw that. And I said to myself, you know what? Because I gave them grace because they're Nick's people, he said, right? Even though I said Nick didn't know what was good for him one time, how does he know what's good for him? But I gave him the benefit of the doubt, right? Because, listen, I don't think he's getting more stupid in jail, I'll be honest with you. I think he's probably getting wiser. I've worked there. What do you think? Idiots are in there? They're criminals. They mastermind bullshit. That's all they do, and they have a bunch of time to do it. So they're trying to figure shit out. I don't think he's getting stupider there. I'm just being honest with you. So I thought maybe, but no. He is still being manipulated, unfortunately. And so it's heartbreaking to me, because these people asked for help, but apparently, they didn't expect it, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I don't know if you were involved. Last March, MPG Cornerstone put a big thing out that Nick was going to be making like his first
Yes, I saw that. And that was a joke. He did nothing. It was nothing. It was a tease. It was a tease. Yeah. And everything they've put out, nothing has been new. Nothing,
we were so disappointed.
Exactly. Nothing has been new. Anything could be AI. And, so I asked about it, and then somebody actually sent me an AI of Nick saying AI. It's AI, Toddy One Skip. It's AI. Like, really, I have that on my shorts. Somebody sent me that and turned it into an AI. So, I mean, that's just the proof of it. But, Nick just told them, hey, and I told my people right away, I said, listen, I get the impression that I know my letters are getting to Nick. I said, because that's the way, Securus is. The letters are getting there. However, I think Nick is taking those letters and probably sending them to somebody or reading them to somebody, and they're telling him how to respond back. I felt that right away. I feel I was just, it's been validated, but, I don't know who's behind MPG Cornerstone, but they're not working in Nick's best
I mean,
interest.
we all marked our calendars and set our alarm clocks for that deal, and it was just absolutely nothing. It was just AI and animation and nothing. It was so disappointing.
Think about it, Sarah. If you, it, it, let's just think about it. If you really wanted as many letters to the governor as you could get, does it really matter if you like the person that's helping you get the letters? They're not trying to take credit. I'm not in there taking credit. I'm saying I'm happy to send you the letters out. And I said it because first it started as people from a different country, and then, Becca Scoops made a valid point, and I heard that, and I said, yeah, she's right. Very few people are actually going to get off their ass, write a letter, put it in an envelope, get a stamp, and run it to the post office or drop it in the mailbox. It's a job. Anymore, we work for ourselves in this country. Before we get to work, we're doing 5 different jobs, whether it's calling the insurance company, calling the doctors, fighting over what's going on at the bank, fighting that our cable isn't working. Why are we getting charged for this? We're exhausted. So to find the time to do this, I can understand. So Becca said, if you guys, she said, I'll go ahead. I think that, if you guys could do it that way, that'd be great. Me too. Okay. So now you have 2,000 subscribers. I have more than that. Even if I had 2,001 subscribers, I still have two. Even if I had 1,000 subscribers, maybe 200 of my subscribers aren't on your channel. Maybe you'll get 200 more letters. Maybe you'll get 20 more letters. Maybe you'll get 2 more letters. It's 2 more letters. It's 2 more letters than what you had. So why would you squash something?
Exactly.
You know that I'm sending the letters out. You know I'm sending them out because I'm putting the receipt from the post office that I had the letter tracked. You could call the lawyer and ask, hey, did you get a packet of letters from Tiny One
So
Skip?
you're sending them? Are you sending them certified? Or are you sending them where they have to be signed for?
No. Nope. I'm just sending them with a tracking so that I know that they got to his office. That's it.
Okay.
So that's it. But I mean, if anybody doubts me, they could reach out. Hey, you know what I'm saying? Like, so knowing that I'm doing this, knowing that I'm doing it, why are you standing in my way? Why are you stopping this process? Why are you causing so much confusion? Why are you so angry at me because I'm doing what you asked me to, what I said I would do? Now let me tell you something else. You know that
I agree with you. It's like, why are they trying to squash everything?
So you know that woman Jessica, the one that I, defended or wrote that or did that video about? Okay. Well, she's part of this bashing routine. Can you imagine that? Like, why would you bash me? Out of everybody, lady, why would you bash me?
After you defended her?
Why would you bash me, lady?
Your video was so kind defending her.
And I would defend again because she was treated so poorly. But why did I deserve it? What did I do? What did I do to you? And I don't care. Here's the thing.
That blows my mind.
Here's the thing. I don't care what I did to them. I don't give a rat shit. I didn't do anything to them. So if I did something to them, they should have come to me and said, hey, listen, Toddy, what is this? And I would have said, what did I do? They said that I used a video and I cut something off of the video. Listen, if there's something about your video that I'm not trusting, I'm going to cut it off your video. And I'm going to always tell people to go to your channel. That's the way I am. I do it with all my videos. I never play everybody's complete video because I want them to go to people's channels. I say that in all of my videos. You know what I'm saying? Go to this channel. I'm not going to play their whole thing. Did I do that? I don't know what they're talking about, but that wouldn't be something that I wouldn't do. Did I spread false information about something? No. They said that they told me 6 months ago about this. Who is they? I still don't know who MPG Cornerstone is. So I don't know if you told me something or didn't tell me something. The only reason why I told people to go to that channel was because Nick told me that those were his
Okay.
people. That, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know who they are. I don't know who they are. I definitely think Fancy has an affiliation with them now. I mean, I'd be stupid not to think so. And especially, I want you to know that Amber and Alora have put their video out now. The video is online. So
Oh, they already got it
yep,
edited
yeah,
down?
yeah, yeah. That was too important. I agreed 1,000,000%. I agreed with them 1,000,000% that
And
it
I'm
may,
gonna get I'm gonna get crucified. You know
no,
what?
no, no, no. How can okay? Well, we're online. We're not live, but we're talking right now. So, what is it that you want to tell people, Sarah? Because this video is going up next. So, what is it that you want to tell people and get clear? I'm not going to interrupt you. I'm listening. What is it that you want to tell the YouTube world or whatever? What is it that you want to say? Please.
Okay, so um everybody, I've been just completely harassed and attacked over this stupid laptop situation. And it's something that Fancy perpetuated that she and Ryan Lee did together.
Okay, so
She,
hang on 1 second. Only because I I think that I know about the laptop situation. Could you just because pretend nobody knows about it? What is the laptop situation, and then what is it that you're defending, please? Because I don't want to assume people know things.
okay, there is a woman named Alicia Pike who is Fancy's biggest fan. And she has autism, and people have said, oh, she collects disability for it. She does not. She works part-time at Walmart. She lives at home with her parents. She has some behavioral issues, and she's absolutely, completely obsessed with Fancy. And so she's like her number one person as far as buying merch and donating money to her. I think when we went to Missouri, she donated like $250. She actually was in our group and said that she was going to go. She lives down like in Georgia, and she said she was going to move up next to Fancy. She doesn't have a car or a license, but she was going to get a robot car to drive her and just crazy stuff. And we were trying to tell her, like, that's not going to work. And so we went to Fancy and said, we think she's kind of like on a stalker level here. You might want to talk to her. No, no, no. Fancy did not want to do that because she did not want that to interfere with her money. Well, a week goes by and Fancy's having trouble with her computer. Now, Alicia began messaging me in like January, and I was so nice to her, and she would message me all hours of the day and night. And I was so kind to her, and she messages me and said, like, it's Fancy's laptop really messed up, because Fancy was saying her keypad was messed up and she wasn't going to be able to finish her books or documentary and all this stuff because her computer was messed up. So this girl messages me and she's like, I'm going to buy her a new laptop. And I was like, I don't think you should do that. She can take it in and get it repaired and get a new keyboard or something. Like, you don't need to spend your money getting her a new laptop.
Right.
And so none of those messages were shared at all. So she was insistent. So finally, after I knew she wasn't going to stop, she'd already picked out like 2 laptops and she wanted to know which one Fancy wanted. I got a hold of Fancy and I said, well, I've kind of got a surprise for you. I was like, Alicia is going to buy you a laptop, but, I told her no, but I don't know what kind you need. Like, I don't know what specs you need. I don't know, like, what kind of hard drive you
Right.
need or anything like that. And Fancy does not skip a freaking beat. She does not say, no, 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 she can't do that. That's too much. She immediately starts giving me like, well, I need this kind. It's got to have this much RAM. It's got to have this. So then I spend all this time going back and forth as like the middleman between them, helping her pick out the right laptop at the best price. And I got nothing out of that. Nothing, Toddy. That was for Fancy.
Right.
So then she sends her the laptop. And Fancy does this big, opening thing and opens it and does it live. And everybody from the group we were in went nuts and left the group and went bonkers because they were like, we've told you this girl's got problems and now you just didn't, unwrapping of a new laptop from her. Like, what the hell?
Right.
And so everyone was very angry. So then Fancy comes to me and she says, Alicia really wants to be part of our team. Now, I have these messages. She's like, Alicia, she really wants to be part of our team. And she thinks of you like a big sister. And I want you to like find something for her to do. And I'm like, for what exactly? And she's like, well, I don't know. Just think of something. And I'm like, give her like an errand or like a project, or I don't know what she's capable of doing, because she does have, the autism.
Right.
And so Fancy's like, just think of something. So I went back and it was kind of like just to give her something to do, to make her feel like she was part of the team, because she said, I want to help you and Fancy, and I want to help the Good Wives Network any way that I can, and she's talking about, financially and all that stuff. And so I said, okay, well, you work at Walmart, you get like 10% discount. If, I buy a new laptop, I'm going to buy the laptop, not her.
Right.
Could I use your discount? And because I used to work at Walmart. And when I worked at Walmart, I let my family use my discount. Right. It's 10% off. And it was basically like we would just go back and forth comparing computers. It was just kind of like to give her something to do, to make her feel like she was part of the team, like Fancy likes to say. And I will say this right now, like I already admitted it. I said I was very transparent that Fancy really sucked me in because of my codependency issues with her narcissism. But, it was just, I can see now how she grooms people, because she groomed me, because if you listen to her, she never says I. It's always we and us.
Right.
And our and the team.
Right.
So when people would come at her, she would come to me and be like, they're after us. We have to do something.
Yeah.
And that was her way to like suck me in, to make me think I had to help her. So, I can see now that's a grooming technique.
Yeah, and the urgency and the no time to think and the inclusion, it's all textbook. I believe Fancy has read stuff. I believe April's read stuff. Textbook shit on how to manipulate. That's like textbook manipulation right there. It's
she used
behavior.
To be. It is a cult. Definitely. I said Fancy is a cult leader.
Cult behavior.
And
yep.
Because she used to run some MLM.
I know. I'm just discovering that. Yeah. Yep. I still have a shitload of videos to exploit with her,
when
because
I saw those videos, I was like, damn, that's where she picked up like the team and our and we and us.
That's what she does. So Fancy is this way, just so people don't know. I'm going to tell you exactly who she is, and then I'm going to ask you to get a doctor and just see if I'm right. Fancy is the type of person that has done so many things but has not completed anything. And what she does is she grabs tools from each place. They're manipulation tools. of how she can use in the future or how she can use at that moment. And that's what she takes from each place she's at. How to better, like an inmate in prison,
Right.
how to better um, continue how to perfect the con, how to better perfect the con. That's who she is, and that's who she is, and that's the type of person she is. And if I didn't
And
mention it before, that's who she is. I'm sorry?
and her husband Craig is the same.
He has to be the same only because they've been married for a really, really long time, and you don't stay married to somebody who you don't have something like that in common with. Would you stay married to a criminal? I mean, you can't. First of all, let me just say, my mom probably would have stayed married to my dad. He was a white collar criminal. He had class. He was still a criminal, but it wasn't a family grift. You know what I mean? My mom didn't even know until my dad got arrested the first time. But the point, it was separate from the home. They have like this family thing going that keeps their house housed, keeps their keeps their fridge with food in it. But it's a grift that goes from week to week because they live from week to week. They don't have a savings. You know that
Right.
you can see exactly who they are, unfortunately, and I don't mean, but it's just the way I listen to Fancy. I fucking listen
Well,
to
they have a
everybody.
very dysfunctional family. I mean,
Exact.
I've had
I've seen the
conversations
yelling
with.
and the screaming. I've seen when the daughter said, "Get him offline, mom," and then she turns around because he's crying and puts him right in front, closer to the computer. I've seen it. I've seen it. I've seen
Right.
it. So, I mean, and then I mean the yelling and the screaming. But here's the thing: neither one of those people seem to be able to make it without any the other people. You see what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
so
Yes.
Fancy couldn't make it without Craig. Craig couldn't make it without Fancy, and the daughter couldn't make it without. They need the three of them to continue the wheel rolling. But
Right. And then they have the fourth daughter who is the nurse, who's the mother, and she, that has the child, that's four, the little boy, and she is the one that they technically live with. The house is in her name.
well, I'm sure that the house is in her name as well because you know, if you look into Fancy's history, she had some bankruptcies, and in order to keep things, they're not going to take your house from you, but in order to keep things, well, I take that back. They will take your house from you, but they won't take a like they won't put you out of home. They'll make you sell your house so that you could get something that you could better afford, and help you pay off everything you owe, or you just put it in your kid's name,
Mm.
and then
Well, they're renting.
you don't. Well, see, and that could also be why it's in the kid's name, because if you don't have credit, you're not renting, as far as I
Yeah,
know.
it's right. They've had,
If there's
evictions and
no
stuff.
consistency as far as work, you got to show that you're able to afford the place you're living in. I mean, you have to show that, and if they can't, what I don't know what they could show. They have to show it. So the consistency, it seems to me, would be the daughter that works as a nurse. That makes
Right. And
sense.
so back to the laptop thing. So this went back and forth for a while, and then she tells me that when she was in high school, her yearbook, she was in yearbook staff class, and they all got a grant to get a new laptop. So she got a laptop for free. It was sitting in her drawer. She hadn't used it for years, and she needed the money apparently so she could give it to Fancy. And so she asked me if I wanted it, and if I wanted to buy it, and I said yes. And then she had told me a price, and then I said, well, I want to make sure that I'm going to cover like this shipping and handling and like all this different stuff. And I said, but she didn't know how to mail it or anything, and her dad was going to mail it from his work. So it ended up, the dad says, hey, you don't have to charge for that because it's going to be free shipping or whatever for us. Don't worry about that. So I bought it, and it doesn't work. And I didn't even bother to tell her, like, it doesn't work. It just wasted this money and I need my money back. Because I thought, oh my gosh, I'm so exhausted with her and this laptop hunt. But then that ended that. And then, but I was still talking to her. I was still, I was trying to be a good friend to her or whatever. And Craig comes in, Fancy, and I'm on the phone with Fancy, and Craig comes in and gets on the phone, and we are discussing Alicia, and Fancy was mad because she had miscalculated the shipping for this blanket that she sent to Alicia, and so she only profited 17 cents. And then I said, well, she's spending a lot of money. Like, Fancy, I mean, this is kind of like getting out of hand. And Craig says, don't worry about it. Her dad's loaded. And I was like, how do you know that? He said, well, when we got her address, when we mailed her that merch. And so I looked up her home on Google Maps. And she lives in this mansion in this really expensive subdivision. Her dad is loaded. So we can get as much money out of her as we want.
I believe that.
And I lost it. And so I started messaging her saying, stop sending Fancy money. I told her everything. Now, and she didn't believe me. And then she finally believed me. She walked Fancy, but lo and behold, Fancy sucked her back in, and she turned on me, and she gave Fancy all those messages where I said, stop giving Fancy money. So Fancy became furious because I was blocking her, money.
Right.
And so she went on just this complete rampage. Well, then it wasn't a few days later, Alicia turns right back around and comes to me and says, because Fancy posted it on one of her lives and was trashing me. And so she comes back to me and she said, I didn't know Fancy was going to post that stuff. She didn't ask my permission. I'm so sorry. She just confuses me so much and I don't know what to think. I thought she was my friend. And I wish that you could help me get my money back. And, I'm not going to talk to her anymore. And then it wasn't, a few days later that she blocked me and she's back over there with Fancy. And at this day and time, she's Fancy's number one gifter. Fancy made her a mod. She is in there all the time. She's giving every penny she makes to Fancy, and it's disgusting. So she sent Fancy all of these, I guess they would be TikTok messages. However, Fancy did not release any of the messages between me and her. And Alicia didn't release the messages on TikTok between me and her. And Alicia did not release the messages between us, on Facebook. So there's messages spread out all across these platforms. So Fancy just got the messages where it basically looks like I'm begging this girl for a new laptop. And that is not the case at all. But Fancy took those messages and she sat on them for 2 months. And then she gets hooked back up with Ryan Lee. And Ryan's like, let me read them. So then Fancy puts on this big elaborate show and says she's so disgusted and she's so disturbed that I would do something so terrible to somebody who's autistic because I had said she was no better than Gypsy because she was using this girl who's autistic the way Gypsy used Nick. And that pissed her off. So she put out only certain messages. She cherry-picked them. They're not complete messages. They've been changed. And she didn't put out all the messages starting from January. She waited until March 1st. And she did not put out any of the messages where she was telling me to basically do this, to give this girl something to do. And Ryan Lee acted them out. She acted like I was this like blonde bimbo. She added extra words in there to make it sound even worse and read out these messages. And then everybody has just pretty much crucified me about this laptop. They don't want to talk about the case. They don't want to talk about what Fancy did to me in Chillicothe. They don't want to talk about any of this other stuff that's going on. All they want to talk about is this damn laptop situation. And it doesn't even matter. At the end of the day, I received nothing because I never asked this girl for anything. Fancy got a brand new free laptop, and now she's getting, hundreds of dollars a month from this woman. And I bought a laptop from her that she had in high school that doesn't even work. So, these messages, and it doesn't matter what I say, people are like, well, I read the messages and they're in order and you can tell. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's bullshit. These messages
Okay,
have
so
been
let me
changed.
ask. So those messages that you're talking about, you have receipts, right?
I have so many, and I have not even been able to get through them from all the different platforms. I mean, if I go back through, that means I have to do Fancy's and hers, and that is thousands and thousands of messages, and I have been too sick to do it.
I understand. The reason why I'm saying that is because we can run those receipts throughout this whole video if you wanted to. If you wanted to, because all you see on the screen is your name and, what, are you looking at the screen?
Yeah, okay. I don't see a picture. It just looks like a head.
Oh, you don't see my picture either?
No, I see you. I see you just fine.
All right, so I guess what I'm saying out there's not a lot to look at, right? But there's a lot of information that we're saying, right? So what I'm saying to you is any receipts that you want me to share, send them to me and I will run them while we're talking. I will run them behind or in front of our conversation.
Okay, well, I don't know if I can, if I
anything you need. I mean, you said that you sent. Did you say that you sent some stuff to Amber and stuff? Is there any of that that you wanted to?
No, nothing to do with the computer. No, okay. But when we get off, of here, I go in and go through my gallery and get all of those that I screenshotted, because another thing that Alicia often did was she would unsend messages.
Okay.
So she was like a dirty deleter. So, but I did get all the ones where I'm telling her, like, don't give Fancy that money. Craig has looked up where your house is and knows how much your house is worth. They're scamming you.
Right.
Stop.
Right,
and nobody showed those. Nobody.
And let me ask you something. I want to make something clear. I do know the answer to this, but I want you to, because I don't want anything to get lost here, Sarah. I think it's important, for two reasons. One reason is because it's very important to you, and I hear that, and so that's important. And the second reason is because Fancy needs to go away, and showing her for who she is, people need to know it, because it's not fair what she does to people. It's not right to take advantage of people. It's not right to con people. It's not right to lie to people. It is not right to be such a piss poor character in this world and walk around like you deserve something that you don't deserve. So
she doesn't understand the outrage about the Dawn and Nick situation, because in her mind, oh, that was a long time ago and I don't feel the same way, and so it doesn't count.
Let me tell you.
And I want your opinion on that.
Okay, well, here's my opinion on that. You couldn't see me before on the phone when we were talking on Into the Weeds, but I was crying. I mean, you literally saw the tears crying. I had to take my glasses off and wipe my face. My eyes are watering now.
Oh my gosh.
So this is what I think about that. I think that I don't understand why life works the way it does for certain people, why certain people don't have good luck in life. I don't understand why people could be at the wrong place at the wrong time just because they're at the wrong place at the wrong time. And, maybe they don't come home from that place because somebody with a gun comes to that place. Nick was an autistic kid who simply was looking for companionship online, and he met the fucking devil. And through that, he ended up doing life when he tried to tell her, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this. And she used coercive control, which is
Yes.
something that Jessica brought up to Bree.
Yes. Yes.
And she tried to explain it, but Bree didn't know what the word was. In all fairness, she couldn't understand it because she never heard the word, in, I don't think, and especially in the accent. So she didn't know what she was saying. So, and then while Nick's incarcerated, she sends somebody in there to just like finish him off. And now we're 8.5 years later, and this man doesn't trust anybody. So,
Yeah.
what do I think about it? I think it's change your mind all you fucking want to change your mind, but you can't change history. And you've done nothing, Fancy. You have done nothing. You haven't owned anything by just saying, oh, yeah, well, she only admitted if she admitted it because she couldn't dispute it. Otherwise, she would have lied about it and continued to lie about it. She admitted it because she was caught, not because she's sorry. Because, see, people that tend to be sorry about doing that action don't tend to ever do that action. Because people that honestly feel bad about that can't sleep after they do something like that. Fancy slept fine and looked for her next grift. She used Nick and his dad and whomever else is under her fucking little Wiggett control to manipulate an autistic kid just the way Gypsy did. And she wants to sit there and point fingers at Gypsy. Well, same thing we could say for Gypsy. Give her grace, man. It was only 8.5 years. It was 8.5 years ago. Let it go. Let it go. Oh, Dee Dee. Who's Dee Dee? Who's Nick? We could have the same attitude. I mean, we could have
Right.
the same attitude. Why don't we have the same attitude? Because it's unjust. It's unfair. Nick's life matters just as much as Dee Dee's life mattered. It matters to me more than Gypsy's life matters. And it matters to me more than Fancy's life matters. That's how much Nick's life matters to me. Okay? Because
well, I sent you that picture of Dawn, and you can see, I believe
that.
she was a victim in this too.
I think she was a victim in it too, but listen, do I feel bad for Dawn? Listen, I have addicts in my family. I do, okay? I feel worse for Nick because, see, Nick wasn't an addict. Nick wasn't at the wrong place at the wrong time. He was at the wrong place at the wrong time. That's it. He wasn't looking for anything outside. So I'm not saying that this is okay or anything like that. But Dawn, even though she's an addict and even though she was used, she knew. Because there were times that there's messages from Dawn and there's messages from Fancy saying, oh, Dawn's having, that Dawn didn't want to do it anymore. So, there's messages from Fancy saying, yeah, well, Dawn doesn't want to do it anymore, but she'll come back to doing it. So, I guess Dawn had some sort of pang of consciousness, and, drugs just made her so desperate. Fancy's despicable. It's all about money, and Nick was nothing to her. That young guy was nothing to her. And I know MPG Cornerstone doesn't want me talking about his mom, but this man had a mom. And that woman had a younger son than Nick. And that little boy doesn't have his mom. So not only doesn't Nick have his mom, but the son doesn't have. The younger kid doesn't. Yeah.
Nobody remembers Quinn. Listen, Quinn was about 10 years old when this happened, and his whole family was destroyed. And then when he was 13 years old, he's the one that found his mother's body.
See, I know nothing about that. I honestly, how old is he now? Is he of age now? Because
yes.
Okay, so he's of age now. And about the woman that you were talking about, the one that Fancy's taking advantage of, because do I need to, are we doxing this woman? Does everybody know who this woman is?
Yes, everybody knows who she is. She's put her name out there.
Okay.
She's in all of Fancy stuff. As a matter of fact, she had posted a comment the other day, and I just happened to catch it. And it was somebody was showing one of Fancy's lives exposing her, and it may have been you. And it says her name, Alicia Pike, and it shows her little moderator symbol, and she says the same. She's just regurgitating Fancy. She says, the Petries had 10 years to do something with the ashes.
Yeah.
They should have. Why didn't they do something before now?
Yeah, yeah. Well, listen, I mean, like, that's another question for somebody else. That's Fancy. Anybody that doesn't understand what that is, that's called distraction. Textbook 101 distraction. Taking away what people are now exposing about me, and let's put it on the Petrie family. Look at what they've done. If you guys want to be that simple and still follow Fancy and believe she's all that, please by all means do so. But please go out in the world very carefully, put a helmet on, and don't talk to strangers, because there are people like Fancy that exist, and you have to use you have to use your instinct and your common sense. And here's the thing about autistic people, which is what I learned, and which made me even more motivated and made me understand it, because I hear Morbid saying, yeah, I really can't understand autism. And I get that, because I couldn't either. How could I put myself in that position? But then I forget who it was, but somebody said, you know that gut instinct that you keep talking about, Toddy? And I said, yeah. People with autism often don't have that. And I thought,
Right.
whoa, like that is a major tool. That is something that so many people take for granted. And it has saved lives of so many people. To walk around without the confidence of your gut instinct, I'd be lost.
Well, they don't know which way to turn.
Exactly. I would be lost. So that's that comment. When somebody said that to me, that stuck with me. And that was the best way, I think, to explain it, because that I could totally understand, and that would make me feel so vulnerable. That, I mean, absolutely, 100%, absolutely true. So
Yeah.
um, the fact that these are the people that Fancy takes advantage of, you know that's just because what you're saying is that's her, the other woman, that's the woman that's sending her the computer and all of that. So that's not, I know that she has a moderator, somebody that's been on Mac.
Oh
and
God,
and from my
yeah.
understanding,
She's
to be honest with you, people have said that Mac was a really decent person. Once upon a that she appeared to be. Maybe she is a decent person and she's being suckered in. I can't understand why people could even think Fancy has something to offer at this point. She's completed nothing. These books are transcripts.
right.
So in other words, if we finish this conversation, say bye Sarah, bye Toddy, and then I close it out, I hit print, and all of our the words, all we had, they come out on paper. She binds them. She calls that a book. That's her book.
She made like all of no, she didn't even do that. She made all of those mods. She had a book group, and everybody was in there, and she would give them each assigned sections to listen to, and then they would have to type them out and transcript them themselves. And that's why it's so poorly written, because you've got so many grammatical errors.
I know. Yes, you do. You do. That's what I heard. I haven't read the book, but I mean, why did she do that? Oh, because she's too cheap. Because she doesn't pay anybody. She's too cheap. So in other words, she's too cheap to get the transcript to go from talk to text to print.
Yes,
Okay.
correct. She
Because
had a book editing. It was called the Book Editing Group, and I was in there,
oh
and
god.
so was Colleen and several other people. And it was everybody would have to listen to a section and type it out and spend hours on it. And there's the grammatical errors are absolutely horrible.
Yeah, so what did she didn't do anything. She just spoke into a computer and said, "You guys do this." And unfortunately, you guys did it for nothing. You did it for nothing but to get
Yeah,
yelled at. I mean,
they had to go back. They had to go back to all of her old podcasts and listen to each one of them.
wow. That's something else. That, that's something else. I did have a question that I was going to ask you on the other channel, Into the Weeds, and that was, how did you get involved with Fancy and when? Because that's not clear to me. Maybe there are people that don't know.
Okay, so I was kind of, pretty much like all the other people in the nation, and thought, Gypsy Rose was this poor victim, and she was getting out, and I didn't know anything really about the case other than what had been on TV. And so after she gets out, then like all of this evidence like starts coming out. And I started going through the crime scene photos and documents. And I actually sat there and listened to the interrogations. And I was just like, this is insane. And, then I knew that everything that I've been led to believe was a lie. And so I picked up in Nick's interrogation where he started talking about Dan. So I was on TikTok, and I was, looking for all these different content creators that were covering the Gypsy story. And I came across Fancy, and this would have been like towards the end of January of last year.
So 2020.
And
So 2023.
2024.
No, that's just 2024 is only no, because the end of January 2024 would have just been
This is 2025.
right. So
January 2024.
the beginning of okay, so that's the beginning of 2024. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right. Because Gypsy got out in December
Of
of 2023.
2023. Right.
Right. So January of 2024.
December 28th, baby. December 28th. You ought to know that date. Everybody should know that date. Hallelujah date.
I mean, that's when, she loves dates. And that's why I kind of have like a skepticism on the baby, because just like with her mother, she claimed, oh, she died on the 9th. She died on the 9th. She died on the 9th. Because that's the same day that her grandmother passed away. And then now she's claiming this baby was born on the 28th. And oh my God, that's such a coincidence, because it's exactly 1 year to the day that I got out of prison.
Right. Okay. Right.
So she's got a thing for dates. But anyway, so I picked up on the comments that Nicholas was saying about Dan, the phone call, and how he wouldn't apologize to him. And I'm looking at the crime scene, and I'm like, this isn't right. Like, there's not enough blood. There's, the safe's cracked open. Like, why did she leave so much money behind? It's just, and all the checks, like nothing is adding up. And so I was just simply looking for someone who was covering the case. And I just stumbled upon Fancy on TikTok. And I reached out to her, and I sent her a Facebook message, and I'm like, hey, I mean, I'm not crazy, but, something's not right here. And I gave her a list of all the things that I found that were not right, like in the crime scene photos. And then I listed out what Nick said in the interrogation about Dan. I said, I think Dan plays a part in this somehow. There's something going on. There's a connection here with somebody named Dan. And she's like, oh my God, you're right, blah, blah, blah. And then we started talking, and that's how we started talking. And so after that, she put out the stuff about Dan. And so, to be quite honest and fair, there are, thousands of content creators talking about Dan and the Dan theory and Dan this and Dan that. But that all came from me. Like, I'm the one that started it with Fancy. And so then at that time, Ryan Lee was supposed to be her, marketing person and her promotions and stuff. And their lives were just a disaster. I mean, Fancy would spaz out and Ryan would cuss her up and down and tell her, shut the F up. And, it was horrible. And Fancy literally looked like she had battered wife syndrome. I mean, it was awful. I don't know why she has this thing with Ryan Lee where she lets her talk to her like that.
I don't know, but I thought Ryan Lee kind of tamed her down, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, she was just spiraling, and then they had their big fight and their big blowout. And she asked me, she had asked me up in her box a few times to talk about, the things that I had discovered, and then she reached out to me and asked me if, I could please help her because she needed help. And Ryan had hurt her and, done all, everybody's always like betraying her, stealing from her, robbing her, stealing her company. I mean, it's just, it's always the perpetual victim.
Right.
And nothing's ever her fault. So I fell for it. I completely fell for it. I thought, I can save her. I can make her better. I can fix her. And like I said, I didn't fix her, but she broke me.
Right. Absolutely. That's the way it usually goes, unfortunately. It's
yeah.
like, don't try to save a drowning person because they will use you as somebody to keep them afloat.
Right. Just like they say, don't ever try to save a drowning man because he'll take you under.
That's what I just said. I just said person, though.
Oh, great minds think alike.
Yeah.
No, it's things, and she was just so abusive, and nobody understands. Like, I literally, I wasn't like Mac. I mean, Amy Mack. Like, Amy Mackey, like, even when she was just in the mod squad or whatever, she was constantly kissing Fancy's ass. Like, you go, girl, way to go. You're the bomb, diggity bomb. Like, I was just like, gag me with the spoon.
Yeah.
But, like, Fancy would give me projects to work on, and I was working day and night. I was going days without sleeping or eating. I was getting completely broken down mentally and physically. And I swear it was like torture where they don't let you eat or sleep. And then they just keep hounding you because she has severe mania and she'll stay up for days and just go, 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 go. And she gets up in the morning and the first thing she does is run to the computer or she's either on her computer or her cell phone 24 hours a day, stalking different people. I mean, going to snark pages, going to Reddit, going to all these different things that I simply did not have the energy for and I didn't do. And she would get mad at me because I wasn't checking out all these, Reddits and things about her and discussions. And I'm like,
well,
I just don't have the energy.
Let me ask you a question, Sarah. I mean, so, like, at some point, you're not getting paid. You're getting abused. Why are you staying?
Because she would break down. And I think it's because she knew I was getting tired or fed up. She had promised me, just
Please,
like
I
Nicole
want you to understand something. I hear it in your voice. I'm not victim shaming you. Listen, I've fallen into relationships that I thought better of. So please, a lot of people do it. And when we talk about this, I think it gives a heads up to maybe awakes things in people that are oh man, that's me. I need to, you know what I mean? So please understand, I'm getting no joy out of hearing your voice crack. I hear it. Okay. So I want you to know, I acknowledge that. And Again, if there's something you don't want to talk about, I don't want you to talk about it. Because I'm not trying to break you. I think this is valuable information. Nobody's like, this isn't about getting fancy back. This is about Sarah telling her story. So, okay?
Oh yeah, and I've got a lot to tell, but she would like break down and cry and go on these rants about how God sent me to her, and Christina, her angel in heaven, sent me to her and she needed me. And you know not only would she have me working on like all of these projects, and I worked hard, and she completely has destroyed and deleted all of my work that I did. Um, and, we were supposed to be covering the case of Natalia Grace because that was a case that I was involved in personally. And we did one half of an intro, and I know you even acknowledged it. You said, you were talking about me, and you said, well, maybe Natalia's not as scary as I thought. Like, this lady sounds like she knows what's going on. And I do know a lot, but every time we did the one thing, and then after that, we never went back to it. She would come up with something else. I want you to research Delphi. I want you to research this. I want you to write this up. I want you to, it was constantly barking orders. And then when she didn't have me doing stuff, she would be calling me personally. And there were many times that we would be on the phone for like 4 or 5 hours. And like I said, I'm not eating, I'm not sleeping, I'm exhausted. I have serious health problems. And she just absolutely broke me and just wore me down. And I had gotten to the point where, she hadn't sent the contract and she hadn't sent the NDA. And I was, beginning to think like, I'm never going to get paid. And then when I asked her about getting paid for collaborating on the book, or if I would have any acknowledgement for the chapters I was writing, because they were the only thing of substance, she told me no. And so I was just getting to the point where I was just getting fed up. And so the trip was basically the ending point, because that's when I finally met her in real life. Right. And it was so much worse than I had ever expected. And now here we are a year later, and I have, I'm so sick. I don't get out of bed. I don't have any money. I ended up with nothing to show for any of the work that I did. And I've got a, criminal court case in Chillicothe and $1,000 warrant out for my arrest. And that's what I have to show for everything I did.
That's really heartbreaking, Sarah.
Yeah. And she wants to ruin my credibility over a laptop. And she's the one that got the brand new free laptop, not me. So how twisted is that?
That's more than twisted. I mean, that's twisted isn't the word for it.
And she's still using that woman.
It's diabolical.
She's still using that woman. She actually brought her on a live. The woman went over to her grandparents' house so she could get on live with Fancy and talk bad about me. And someone notified her father, and he came over and was like, get off there right now. And so Fancy and all them said they were going to call the police and do a wellness check on her. And so now her dad is so afraid of Fancy calling the cops on them, he's just going ahead and letting her do it. And so she's still taking advantage of her. And I was just done really when Craig and her were bragging about her dad being loaded because he had looked up her house on, GPS, Google, whatever, Google Maps. That I was done. I was just done. I thought, you guys are just disgusting.
Okay, so I think that, yeah, no, you're not getting an argument out of me there. So let's talk a little bit about you. I mean, so let me ask you this, because you did a lot of work. You're familiar with the case, probably more familiar than Fancy, because you seem to be able to have the common sense to get out of your way and look at what might be in front of your face as opposed to what you want to put there. So, what do you think happened that night? What do you think happened that night in that house? What's your theory, Sarah?
Well, I do believe that Dan was there on the 9th. We've seen the messages where Gypsy asked Nick if it was okay for her to have sex with someone else before she left town with him. And we know that Dan was like her first true love, and, she was obsessed with him. And Nick has said that too. I don't think she ever planned on leaving there with Nick. Again, I mean, you've even said it. She didn't buy herself a bus ticket. I believe that the plan was for Nick to be the fall guy, and that she was going to run off with Dan. And Dan said no. He had a wife and 2 children in Arkansas. So that's why she ended up going with Nick. And I believe something happened, and I don't know if we'll ever know the truth. We have the dually tracks out in the front yard, and Dan drove a dually truck. There was that black baseball cap laying in the middle of the living room floor that was not Nick's, and they didn't even test it. They didn't test the Pepsi cans. They didn't test the cigarettes, the cigarette butts, nothing. They basically had, a slam dunk case. He admitted to it, but I will always wonder if he really dealt the final blow or not. And that is a question in my mind, is she could have convinced him that he did it, but Dee Dee could have already been gone or on her way out. And he still only claims 4 stabs, but there were 17. So where did the other ones come from? It's really sad. It's like, just think about this. He's on the bus on the way to be with Gypsy while she's at the post office, walking to the post office just like a regular old person, with her wig and clothes on, buying the envelope and getting it, stamped for the knife and glove. She's already gone and done that.
I don't understand that, Sarah. Help me. I have a question. Because, and here's, so my theory is exactly what you said, right? We share the same theory. But to me, she didn't know that she was going to go back with him. So to me, my theory was he was supposed to be unalived in that house. So, but your theory is he was just supposed to be the fall guy and go back home there? Because how does a dead person send the weapon back to themselves? You know what I mean? That's the question. That's the bit.
Right. She had bus passes. We know that.
But so not for her. Not for her.
No. But she had bus passes for the local bus that ran through town.
Oh, okay.
So she goes to the post office and she gets the package and she gets it, stamped and everything. before Nick even gets there, and she's got the knife and she's got the gloves and she's got everything waiting for him to be the fall guy. I mean,
But I guess what I'm saying is, my theory is he's not supposed to leave the house alive. So why? Who's sending? Like, if he's supposed to, if my theory is correct, then there's no need to send a weapon anywhere because you got the victim and the perpetrator in the house, both unalived, because one defended themselves and the other one died in the process. You know what I'm saying? So why does the weapon have to go? To me, the weapon gets mailed only because they're heading back, right? So they're heading back to, now that she has no choice. She has to go back with Nick because what else is she going to do? Okay? So she goes back with Nick. That's why they have to wait. That's why they get the bus ticket for her. And she mails the weapon. Like, why? Why does she mail the weapon? Because at that point, I mean, like, at that point we are, it doesn't make it, I don't understand. Help me understand why the weapon is mailed. Like, why didn't they just get rid of, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, drop it down a sewage hole, throw it down in a lake. Why are you mailing the weapon when you're going to the place? You are going to the place that the weapon is going to be at now. Like, now you know you're going there, because she couldn't have mailed it before. And you know what I mean? Like, I don't understand that part.
right. Well, I mean, she mailed the weapon before they left town.
Yeah, because she didn't want to get on the bus station. She didn't want to get on the bus because, according to her, she was afraid that there was going to be
a metal detector. But
I want you to think about something. Now, wouldn't that be the first thing you would say to Nick? Hey, Nick, was there any metal detectors at the bus station? Like, the guy just got off the bus to go there.
Right.
So, and if he were to say, no, babe, don't worry, there's no metal detectors, no. Like, so again, she's going there to where the weapon is being mailed. Help me. Okay, I guess I keep interrupting. I'm not understanding why the weapon is being sent there too. They don't really need that weapon per se. He admits without the weapon being, you know what I mean? Like, it just, they're already the people that committed the crime. Like, their DNA is already there. Why? That's the bit that I don't understand.
I believe it was her way to set him up. I mean, that would be the final nail in his coffin. And
so you think that he was supposed to unalive Dee Dee and then go home without her to Chillicothe?
Yeah.
Or and what was that supposed to look like? She was just supposed to say thanks for that, see you later? Like, he unalived her so she could be with another man. You see where that, like, yeah. I don't understand.
That's basically what I think. I think she planned on taking off with Dan, and she was just setting Nick up.
Oh, just for him to leave him there. Bye, see you later, like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, he had a return bus ticket, so. It was like, thanks for the job and see you later, because, I think she planned on leaving with Dan, and Dan changed the plans, and, she fully intended, she didn't think she was going to get arrested at all. She fully thought she was going to go back to that house because she left thousands of dollars in cash and thousands of dollars in checks, in that safe. She took $5,000 cash out. She left $9,000 cash in and about $30,000 worth of checks. So they had also just bought a brand new car like the month before. I think she fully thought she would set Nick up and end up going back there and living her happy life with Dan.
How do you figure? See, that's where I'm confused again. Now, there again, I want to say, like, what do you mean? Like, how happy was her life in a wheelchair? if she stayed in that house, she would have to continue being that sick person to all of her neighbors, right? So what kind of like, why change anything?
Well, she could have said she got, I got healed. I got some new medical treatment. I'm cured.
I never thought about, I guess she could have, I guess maybe she could have turned around after the unaliving and after, I guess she was, whatever, and just, that she made it through because the person didn't want to kill her, or she killed him, or he left, or whatever it was. And so she's got the house with Dan, and oh, by the way, my mom told me I was sick. Like maybe she would have come up with her own Munchausen by proxy had she have gone the way you say, as far as taking over the house. Because I can't imagine her going back to the house. To me, it would make sense. Take all that money, take whatever, but don't take the checks because now you can't really cash them because then they'll know. But take all that money, and for all they know, everybody's looking for somebody in a wheelchair. They're not looking for somebody walking, haplessly around the world and or around Missouri. You know what I'm saying? Like so, and she's gone, and they just think that, well, listen, she's been gone for 2 weeks. We can't find her. She's got to be dead at this point because she doesn't have medication. She doesn't have her wheelchair. They just stopped looking for her. You know what I'm saying? Like that's that's what my theory. That's what my theory was. But also that Nick was supposed to be unalived in the apartment. Like why wouldn't like they had all these messages and stuff saying what happened, their exchange between them, all of those text messages, all of the messages on every platform basically talking about how they were going to do this. And so like I mean that's why I'm saying it just doesn't seem like Nick, because why couldn't Nick go home and then he get arrested and they find the knife and him say, yeah, but, like, was she really counting on him never to say a word about what happened? Like, never? Because he did. As soon as the cop came in and said, you have to tell us because it's the honorable thing to do. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right. It is extremely confusing because it's like you don't have a bus ticket for yourself to go up there, but he's got a return ticket,
and she got that. She planned all of that. It's not even that he got it on his own because he would have gotten her ticket.
She hired a hitman. Let's just be frank. She hired a hitman, and she paid the hitman's way to come there and commit the crime. And I don't know why people just don't look at it like that, but I will always have the question, why did you leave $9,000 cash in the safe? She had to think she was coming back. And as we see in her interrogation at the end, she's asking questions like, when can I get my stuff? When can I go back home?
Yeah. No, I saw that. I didn't know that that's how much money. I got to tell you, there's information you're telling me that I've never heard before. I mean, I'm just being honest. And that's sad because I didn't have a clue that you knew as much about the case that, I mean, everything about the case and then some. I mean, you know more than what Fancy knows. I mean, because seems like you gave Fancy. It seems like you guys are the ones that are giving Fancy your information.
It's a conundrum. It is a conundrum. Why did you do the knife? Why did you mail the knife? Why did you leave $9,000 cash in the safe? Why? I mean, what was going on? There's something else going on to this story. There's a puzzle. There's a piece of this puzzle that we're missing.
Well, I heard that, and tell me if I'm wrong here. I heard that that her dad and Christy were given permission to go into the house and get things out of the house, and that the Petrie
Yes.
sisters allowed, like, that doesn't make, like,
I've
so
never,
there
I
with
can
that,
tell
so with
you,
that, the only thing that that tells me, I'm going to tell you what that tells me as a parent, as a person of divorce, is that, see, it was always claimed that Rod and Dee Dee had a decent relationship and that Christy and Dee Dee had a decent relationship. They used to call her Mama Dee Dee, so
yeah,
to me, to let them go and do that, that falls along the lines of everybody was friends with each other. Not, oh, that's the ex-husband. You know what I mean? And the new
right, right.
wife.
Well, and I've said this, that it blows my mind. I've said all along from the beginning, how in the hell did Christy get into that house so soon? She was in that house like the day after. And I am dealing, my father passed away 7 years ago. We're still in probate court fighting over our farmhouse and our land and our farm. And people were not allowed, the family, I wasn't allowed. At one point, I wasn't even allowed to go in there and take anything out. I wasn't allowed to sell anything that was in there, even if it was mine. But they are not even physically related, and they're allowed in the house immediately. And then they immediately start taking whatever they want out of it. That makes no sense to me at all.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me either. Let me ask you this, because I'm getting ready to close this out. I'm tired too, but um, and anything you don't want to talk about, we don't have to. How are you feeling? Where do you stand with your health?
It's very bad. My health is very, very bad. My my doctor has written letters and sent documents to the judge in Chillicothe saying, like, she cannot travel, and all this stuff. And my public defender just said, well, then you shouldn't have come here and committed a crime. And that's my public defender telling me that.
Right.
So the DA is after me because of what Fancy's done. And I want them to know, like, I had no part in that doxing. I had no part in those false allegations. But yeah, my health is very, very poor. I'm basically, I actually am disabled. It took me years to get it, but I have the chronic pancreatitis. I have the issues with chronic pneumonia. I have the severe anemia, the leukemia. They're still trying to work that out. I basically spend almost 24 hours a day in bed. And I am I feel I'll just be completely honest with you, Toddy. The healthcare system where I live in Southern Illinois is one of the worst in the nation. And I am just getting bounced around from one, professional to another, and nobody is coming up with an answer to anything. And I think that I'm just going to lay here and die because I am getting weaker and weaker every day. And I have to tell you, the situation in Chillicothe has taken a huge, huge toll on me. And the attacks by Fancy have taken a huge toll on me and all the other people, and I'm so sick of hearing about this stupid laptop thing. I just want to scream, it's like, do you guys not see that she was manipulating me? She was manipulating this girl. She still is, and she's manipulating all of you.
There's a lot of people that see that, just so you know, there are. I know that it's hard to see when you're in it. I know that. But you have to I had a lot of people coming at me with this bullshit with the letters, and look at what happened. Look at what happened in 24 hours. I feel completely, you know, look, man, I could prove everything. I got a big ass smile on my face. You know what I'm
You're
saying?
doing, what you're doing is amazing, and that's
Yeah,
why I
but
said when
wait a
you
minute,
first
but
got
wait,
on.
but wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. What I'm trying to say is, I don't think people have seen you in this light. I mean, I haven't. Like I again, I didn't know how what's the word? How schooled in this investigation. Because Fancy does not make you look. It shouldn't make anybody look good, Sarah. Let's face it. Nobody that works with her seems to gleam or shine or whatever, because Fancy wants all the fucking spotlight. All God forbid she lets somebody get any kind of credit for something here. So, and because of that, she has squashed you to. I just, I just think that a lot of people are going to be very surprised when they see how articulate you are. I think that when we go on the defensive, right? And me too. When we go on the defensive, it doesn't often bring out the best side. We go easily. We have buttons that people can push, and they're going to push them to bring out the worst side of us. That's the way it is, yeah. So,
Yeah.
and I think that I've heard a lot of that, and but here, in a setting where you were able to just be calm and breathe and have a chance to tell your story, and on obviously on the, because this is more of a continuation from Into the Weeds podcast, but over there as well, and I'm sure people have seen it as well, that you're much more articulate than I gave you credit for. I'm sorry, that's the truth, but again, you could blame Fancy for that and the situation.
I understand, and I appreciate that, and I do feel just a tiny bit better that Amber and Alora were able to validate my truth.
Yeah.
About what happened, with me crying and shaking and being afraid and being intimidated and being so sick. And, like I said, I just wish you could have seen it with me crying under the tree with the cops and Fancy doing freaking handstands across the courthouse lawn.
I just think I mean, wow, what a piece of shit. Pardon my language, but what a piece of shit. Do
Yeah,
you do
I was
any?
like,
Do you have a channel? Do you do any? I'm sorry.
I have TikTok, and okay, so when I started off on TikTok, the reason I started my channel was because I'm like a huge Bravo fan, and they had Lou, and they had Morgan. I can't think of her first name. All of a sudden, come in from the Real Housewives of New York. And they actually came here. I live in Marion, Illinois, and they actually came to Benton, which is just like a half an hour away from me. And they did a whole season with them. It was called Real Housewives of Crappie Lake.
Okay.
And so it was a really big deal here because this is a very, very southern rural area. And, to have something like that, it was a big deal because the producer of the show is actually from Benton. So he wanted to do something, bring something to his hometown to kind of help boost the economy because our economy is so terrible here. There's absolutely no jobs. And so, because everyone had been affected so much from COVID, so many businesses were shut down permanently. So he, pitched the show and they were willing to do it. And they came here. They were here for like 7 weeks. And so I started off on TikTok just covering covering Crappie Lake. And then after that was done, I switched over to hosting discussion panels on different topics. And that's another thing was that the channel is called Hot Topics discussion panel. And before I got doxxed, my name was Sadie Beth One on TikTok. Nobody knew that what my first and last name were. And then I got doxxed. Right. Then after I got doxxed, because I had my profile picture with one of my Kentucky Derby hats on at the Kentucky Derby, then Ryan Lee started calling me Pink Hat Sarah.
Okay.
So as a joke, I changed my name to Pink Hat Sarah, and now unfortunately it's stuck. But so I put Hot Sadie Speaks to go with Hot Topics, and Fancy's been making fun of that, saying, you know, and Mac, you know, like, who does she think she is? She's not hot, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, she doesn't talk, she doesn't make fun of people, not Fancy.
Right. And I'm like, you idiot. I'm not saying I'm hot. It's Hot Topics discussion panel. So, yeah, I need to get that started back up and get that going. But I've been just so sick. And
so what's the name of the TikTok? What's the name of the TikTok? I'm on TikTok. I want to get it.
It's Hot Sadie Speaks.
Okay. I'm gonna subscribe. I'm not on TikTok much. You don't do anything on YouTube?
I have a YouTube channel, and I'm gonna start uploading videos soon.
I think you should.
Yeah.
What's the YouTube channel?
I think it's Sarah's panel discussions or Sadie's panel discussions.
Okay, here you only have so many. You only on Hot Topics, Sadie. That's a newer channel for you.
The YouTube channel. I just changed the name.
The TikTok.
The TikTok. It's not new.
It's Hot Topics, Sadie Speaks discussion.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And then the YouTube channel, I really haven't done anything on YouTube, and I just changed the name of my YouTube channel so that it would match my TikTok channel, because it had my first and last name on there.
Okay.
But Sadie's actually my family nickname. That's like what my dad would call me. So that's why I went by Sadie for so long. And then, you know, unfortunately, sadly, myself and the little boy that I was adopting got doxxed. So that sucked.
Do you have a little boy?
Okay, so what happened was I got a call that my best friend's cousin had a baby, and he was abandoned. He was a preemie. He was NAS, which we used to call them crack babies, but they call him NAS now, and that he needed someone. And I did not hesitate. And literally within a couple hours, I had a baby. And they were like, wow, can you come to Indiana where he's at and stay in the NICU with him while he goes through the withdrawal program? And it was the hardest thing I've ever done, but he is the greatest miracle that I have ever witnessed. I mean, that child has overcome so much. I mean, he still has a long road ahead of him. He is autistic. He has issues with his speech, but I was with him. We were fighting COVID, we were self-quarantined. And so it was just him and I, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, just me and that little baby. And, I want to give God the glory for it, but he used me. But if I had not gone there and rescued him and saved him, he would have died. Right. And so I had him for 2 years all by myself, and I was in the adoption process. We'd already been to court several times. Parental rights had been terminated. DNA tests had been done and failed. And, so I was at the last steps of getting him adopted, and I got sick, and they put me in the hospital, and they gave me a 24% chance of surviving. So I contacted my daughter, biological daughter. And I was like, could you watch him, or I didn't know what I was going to do. I was terrified. I did not want to lose this child. And so she was living with her fiance, and she said, yes, we'll take care of him while you're in the hospital. So I was in there for a very long time. I got out and had an accident, and immediately was placed back in the hospital, and then ended up in a nursing home and got down to 97 pounds. And pretty much I was, about to die. And I came back home, and the only thing that kept me going, was I gotta get out of here. I gotta get better so I can be with my baby. And while I was in the hospital and nursing home, my daughter and her fiance and his family just fell in love with my little guy. And he was already calling him Dada, and it broke my heart. And so I got out of the hospital, and was still slowly recovering, and got out of the nursing home slowly recovering. And I was going and staying with them and spending time with him. And I just knew that I live alone. And if I had another accident, what if he was here? Right. He wasn't here when I had the accident, but what if he had been, Right. And I always think of it as like the story of the two women in the Bible that go before King Solomon and claim that they have the same baby. And he's like, all right, I'm going to cut it in half. And the real mother jumps forward and says, no, give her the baby. And he's like, okay, now I know which one's the real mother.
Right.
I had to sit there and make that decision of like, they wanted to adopt him, and I can't give him a dada. I'm not married. I'm not dating anyone. And what if I had another accident and he was here?
Right.
Like, it would be horrific. It scared me so much, and I loved him so much that I was willing to let them adopt him.
Well, now you have a grandson.
Yes, and my daughter just had her own biological daughter, so now I have a little granddaughter.
Congratulations, that's awesome.
Thank you. So, but no, don't get me wrong. I mean, he gave me a reason to live again, and losing him has broken me. Right. Just broke me. So, but he's happy and healthy, and he's got, I will say this, I mean, he does have the best dad in the world.
Right. That's awesome. But also, I mean, he's still in your life, right? I mean, he's still in your life?
It's complicated right now. My daughter is kind of my daughter's, she's
I understand
else.
what family is. I know about
Yeah,
family.
She's something else. So right now we're not on very good terms, but that is something that really got to me, was that after the split with Fancy, and after she got mad because she thought I was messing with her money, telling, Alicia to stop giving her money. And, I was trying to walk away from the entire situation, and she's the kind of person, like, she won't let you go. And if you do go, she will make sure she destroys you. And that's why Colleen was so terrified. Her nurse, she was so terrified to leave. She was, just hysterical. She had to take off work. She had a nervous breakdown because of Fancy, because she wanted to leave and she was so scared of her. But, I told her, we can do this together. Let's do it together. We'll both leave at the same time, And
to be so afraid, to be so, that's cult-like. That's cult-like.
It is. And Fancy actually went out of her way somehow. I don't know how, but she found my daughter, and she contacted my daughter, and she started harassing my daughter. And my daughter told my younger sister, and my sister stepped in and contacted Fancy and was like, leave my niece alone. And then Fancy started telling my sister all this crazy stuff, trying to brainwash her and saying like, oh, your sister Sarah is so horrible, blah, blah, blah. And then we go back to this whole laptop thing. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You're beating a dead horse, you know? Like, this was something that Fancy profited from, not me. Leave me out of this, you know? And so Fancy has made videos saying, you know, like, well, when's the last time you talked to your daughter? And, oh, by the way, your sister says hi. And she included my sister and my mother in the legal documents that she filed with the court, and she's called my mother elderly. My mother's not elderly. She's a teacher. She works full time. I mean, she included my mother and my sister in the documents that she filed with the court.
See, here's the thing. Let me tell you something. Let me just tell you something. If you had money, right? If you had a little bit of money, I'm just telling you, and you got a lawyer, she'd go away. She would go away because, and that's the thing. That's the thing. That's how you destroy her, because she has no money. She has no money, and you just keep her going legally. You just keep her going legally. And listen, she's got charges coming up against her. Trust me, she does. And her credibility should be almost gone by now. And so, you know, whatever kind of puff she thinks she has, with however many people are left believing and drinking her Kool-Aid, she has no power anymore, Sarah. She has no power over you. She has no power anymore, Sarah. She's done. And those people that still believe her, you can't change. You're not going to change. You're not going to change them. You're not going to change those people. So don't waste your breath. And those people aren't the people that you want. They're not the people that I don't want. Idiots. I mean, if you can't figure out who she is by now after the video that I know Into the Weeds just put out, and the video that I'm putting out, and all the videos that all these other content creators put in, you think that we're all that jealous? Half of us have more subscribers than her. Are you kidding me? What do you think it is? Maybe she's wrong. Maybe she's making this community look bad. Maybe she has something to do with the fact that Nick Godejohn won't talk to anybody.
Yep. But, you know, to her, that was just, you know, she's changed her mind now, so it's okay. Forget about that.
It's not okay. Like, she could think that, but it's not okay. Nobody's letting this go.
She thinks because she told his dad she's sorry so many times that now it's okay.
Listen, if his dad believes her, then I would have to question what side his dad's on.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know, because I don't know his dad. I don't want to speak ill of his dad. Let me just stop there. I know what side I'm on. It shows. It's pouring out of every orifice of me. I mean, justice for Nick. I see it with Becca. I see it with Nina. I see it with 1980. I see it with Trixie. I see it with Dawn. I see it.
I mean, thank you.
I don't see it with MPG, to be honest with you. I don't see it with Fancy at all.
There's something not right. It's why, after all this time, can we not find out who is running that?
Doesn't matter. We are going to find out. We're going to find out.
Well, thank you so much for doing all the work that you are doing, because I see you posting videos every day, and, you know, you're handling all of these letters and everything else. And, you know, God will bless you for that. You know, you're doing this from your heart.
I appreciate that. I just want to correct some of the wrong that was in this new community that I'm a part of, that I definitely learned what not to do from Fancy or April. I definitely learned there's people you learn what to do from, people you learn what not to do from. People should learn what not to do from Fancy.
Somebody told me that she'll never go away because she's a cockroach and they never die.
Oh, they do. There's the only way to kill the cockroaches. This is true because I'm from Florida and they grow them big out there. You got to flip them on their back, and then you step on their gut. There you go. Serious. That's how you do it. That's really how you do it.
Wow.
Because their shell is too hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Toddy, thank you so much for your time. And if there's, I sent you my number. If there's anything I can do, reach out to me and I can talk to you again if you have any other questions. And thank you again for everything that you're doing.
And you reach out to me, Sarah, if there's anything that we could do. And maybe we could do like a Natalia Grace. I'd love to talk about that case.
Oh, yeah. That's definitely, something that I was heavily invested in at the beginning because I knew about it for several years because of my mother working for the University of Purdue, and they were up there in Lafayette. So,
wow.
And now we've got the final season, that came out just a few weeks ago.
Right.
So,
yep.
I don't, in my opinion, until she gets some very serious psychological help, she's just going to continue to just move through person after person after person because she has the reactive whatever. She has rad, okay, where she cannot bond with people. She can't bond with them. She has a reactive disorder. Wow. So, an attachment disorder. But she was done terribly wrong. She was a poor little crippled 8-year-old dwarf child that was left to live all alone.
Yes.
Yeah. And that is, I don't know why. That's another thing we ask about these questions with Gypsy, and still I'm like, why did these people get away with doing that to her?
I don't know, why they weren't punished by law. They weren't. They were both freed.
Yep. I mean, he got found not guilty, and her case just got thrown out because they weren't allowed to use the fact that her age had been changed, which is completely insane. That they just went to their judge, who they were buddies with, and said, hey, can you change her date of birth with no files, no records, her not in court, nothing. And the doctor changed her and made her like 20 years older than what she was with no proof.
Yeah, I don't understand. And I don't know enough about, was he penalized? Because as far as I know, nobody was penalized over this.
No.
That's crazy.
It is a very crazy case, and they were able to determine, with DNA evidence that she was biologically the age that she claimed to be, and so she was a little girl.
Yep. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, she couldn't reach the counters. She couldn't give herself a bath. She couldn't do her laundry. I mean, she was scared and all alone, and people wondered why she acted weird. Well, she's 8 years old.
Yeah, but you know what's weird is that you got Dr. Phil, who, has all these fucking make-believe degrees and shit, and I remember him bashing her by saying, you want us to believe that you lived alone when you were 8 years old? Like, how is that possible? Fucking possible, ain't it, Dr. Phil? It's possible now, isn't it? Huh?
Right. Well, look at the way he portrayed Gypsy in the interviews.
And he still hasn't fixed that. You know that, right? He still hasn't gone back and fixed that.
Yeah, he still hasn't fixed Natalia either. That just ruins his credibility.
Yeah.
Well, Toddy, I thank you so much, and I don't know, are you taking that clip of the thing that we talked about with Dawn out of the cutting out of the weeds? Are you cutting that out and using it?
What thing?
When we were talking about Dawn and all that stuff, you said, I'm gonna share this. I'm gonna
Oh, I'm
cut
sure
this.
Dawn's seen it by this point because they put that video up.
No, 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 not Dawn from the cutting board. When we were talking about Dawn Boker, and I was telling you about what they did, you
Oh
said you
yeah,
were
I
going to take.
definitely want to do that. Because I'm gonna make my own very simple video that attaches Fancy to. I'm gonna make my own simple video that attaches Fancy to that woman Karen, and that woman Karen to MPG. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know you were, when I was discussing, what I had been told by Fancy as far as how they had used Dawn Boker. You were like, I'm cutting this and using it. I hope you know.
Well, because this is the thing. Why? Because how do they justify sticking up for Fancy if they're looking out for Nick?
Right.
Like and how do they justify them doing good when they're okaying this behavior? It's appalling. It's appalling.
Right.
So
And you're right as far as Gypsy, that, she wasn't supposed to have any contact with Nick, but by giving suggestions and telling Christy and Fancy things to say, to tell Dawn to write to Nick that would trigger him, or get him, attached or worked up or whatever, ways to manipulate him. I mean, that is contact.
Yes, it is. It is contact. It does. You can't even say something like, well, tell him happy birthday for me.
No.
I mean, so you definitely can't like put somebody in there to manipulate the situation when you can't have contact. First of all, that's entrapment. Yes. I mean, like, that's entrapment. And I mean, it's illegal. It's illegal activity. And, again, if Fancy's connected to the Good Vibes Network, the Bad Fox Network, if Fancy's connected to the
MPG.
yeah, they're gonna come apart anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, one thing I have is a few lawyers.
Well, good. I'm glad.
That aren't gonna charge me. But I don't want people to fight my battles unless, I mean, I'm really treated unfairly and like there's just no way out of it. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it's not just my battles. So anyway,
Well,
I am gonna edit some of this out. I am gonna make sure that, because to me the most important thing to you is the laptop. So I want to put that out there, just once and for all. Here, the story of the laptop. I mean, just once and for all.
It was like more or less like a little game, like, oh, well, can you look at this one? Just because Fancy's like telling me to have her do this, like, so she feels involved.
Right. No, I get it. I get it. I totally get it. And
Yeah.
And again, if people can't see the difference between you and Fancy, you don't want those people in your corner. You have to just realize that there are going to be rotten people in the world that just like to see train wrecks.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
But, you've said everything. It makes sense to me. And the people I think that you respect will find that they respect you. I respect what you've done here. She was somebody that, she's one of those vampires. Those, what I mean? Like, she just sucks the life out of everybody around because, she didn't make you shine in a good light, even if she wasn't saying bad shit about you. She definitely did not make you shine in a good light. She made you look like an idiot. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Again, you're very articulate. You're very smart. You could stay focused. There's, like, everything she said about you and had people believing because she screamed it, I think people are gonna be dumbfounded when they hear.
Well, and that is Fancy's tactic. She is, number one, the biggest bully that I've ever met, And she believes that as long as she's the one in the room that is screaming the loudest, then she's the winner.
Yeah. Just because you scream the loudest doesn't mean you have anything at all to say.
There you go. Absolutely, 100%.
You know? All right, Sarah. It
All right.
was a pleasure, and please stay in touch with
Thank
me.
you.
And if you need something, give a holler.
All right. Thank you so much, Toddy, and
All
thank you
right.
for everything you're doing.
Not a problem. Take care.
All right.
Bye
Good
bye.
night.
Bye. Guys, thank you so much. I know it was a long interview, but there was so much that I learned from it. And again, I enjoyed talking to Sarah, and I hope that we can possibly work together on something. Maybe talk about that Natalia Grace story, or maybe some other story. So I wish her health, Godspeed. She's not feeling good. And, stress. Nobody should underestimate the power of stress, guys. Okay? So be better today than you were yesterday, not half as good as you'll be tomorrow. Always be kind. And guys, just thank you so much again for the support that you've given me. I finished this batch of letters. I don't want to dox anybody. There's a good amount of letters here. And yeah. So I'm going to put them in the mail, and I'm going to go ahead and get the tracking on this again. I did call the lawyer to see if he got the first batch of letters. I haven't heard from him. I left a message. Guys, thank you, and take care of yourselves. Bye.